In this video, I'm going to show you one way to create a first report in Power BI. For this video, we already have our data loaded into Power BI, and we already related the tables to each other. Or another way to say it is we already created our data model. As we can see here on the right-hand side, we have our tables, and if we navigate to the model view on the left-hand side, here we have our sales table, and then our lookup tables at the top, and they are all related to the sales table. So what do we do from here to start building our first simple report? First, we're going to do a little bit of cleanup. Let's expand these tables, and we're going to look for any columns that have a sigma symbol next to them. Here's some. For all of these fields that have a sigma symbol next to them, we click on it, and then here in the ribbon at the top where it says summation, we select Don't Summarize. And I'm going to go down the line doing that for each of these fields. Some of the reasons it's a good idea to remove that automatic summation from these fields is to give you control and reusability. Let me explain. That summation is Power BI trying to help you to get really quick answers from your data. So for example, for our sales amount, I'm going to turn this back on. And if I select the sales amount and drag it onto the canvas, Power BI automatically sums that sales amount for me. That sounds like a good idea, but there are some limitations to this. If you need a quick answer, that's okay. Feel free to use this. But what I prefer to do is have more control over the calculations in Power BI. And I will want to redirect my users to select the right calculations as well. So what I'm going to do is hide this field and create my own sales amount summation calculation. Another limitation is what if you wanted to use the sum of your sales amount as a base calculation to calculate something else on top of that, such as a year-to-date sales amount. You would not be able to use the sales amount column to do that. So instead, if we hide this column and create our own sales amount calculation, we can then reuse that to create other calculations on top of that, such as a year-to-date sales amount. So once again, I'm going to remove this summation here, and we're going to create our own sum of sales amount by using a DAX measure. So I'm going to navigate to the Home tab, and I'm going to select New Measure. And I'm going to call this Total Sales. But before I do that, I want to increase this font size. I can do that by pressing Control on the keyboard and then scrolling up with my mouse. And conversely, if I want to reduce the font size, I scroll down on the mouse. So now let's call this Total Sales Amount. Then on the right-hand side of the equal sign, I'm going to start typing in sum, open parentheses, sales amount. I press enter, and then I close the parentheses. And I can hit enter again, or I can press this green check mark. And now, as we can see on the right-hand side, we have this new DAX measure, total sales amount. And we can tell it's a DAX measure because it has this little icon next to it that looks like a calculator. Now I'm going to take this original sales amount field. I'm going to click on the ellipsis and hide it. That way, anyone who's using this report and wants to use the total sales amount will use my measure that I created instead of the sales amount column. And just for kicks, we can see that the result is going to be the same thing if we use this sales amount measure. So I'm going to take this, drag it onto this canvas, and we can see it's the same thing. If I change this to a card, I select my card visual here in the visualizations pane, and then I select the other visual and do the same thing. We can see it's the exact same thing. But now we have more control and reusability with this DAX measure. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to put this off to the side over here. Now let's say we want to see an order count. How can we calculate that? Let's take a look at our order table. So I'm going to the table view and then the sales order table. And here we see our sales order number. So one way to do this is creating this new DAX measure. Now, instead of going to the Home tab and selecting New Measure from here, another way to do that is here under the Sales Order table, we right-click and we select New Measure. And here I'm going to call this Number of Orders. And then on the right side of the equal sign, I'm going to say Distinct Count. That's the DAX function I'm going to use. And I'm going to reference this sales order column. So I start typing in the sales order table name, and then I select the sales order column. And then I close the parentheses and hit enter. Now I'm going to navigate back to the report view, and I'm going to drag this onto the canvas. And I'm going to change this visual to a card. Now, what if we wanted to know the average sale per order? Here's a way to calculate that. I'm going to select a new measure and call this average sale per order. And then I want my formula to be on another line. So on my keyboard, I press Shift and Enter. That brings me to a new line. And I start typing in divide. And I'm going to divide the total sales amount. And as you can see here, we are reusing our total sales amount DAX function that we created earlier. And then comma, and then the number of orders. And there's our DAX measure that we created for number of orders. And we close the parentheses and hit enter. And here in the canvas, I select card, visual type, and then I can drag the average sale per order function onto the card visual. Now, what if we wanted to know our cost? Let's take a look at our sales table again. Here we have the total product cost column. So I'm going to use this to create a new measure. By the way, a third way we can create a new measure is by clicking on this ellipsis, and then we can select again, new measure. I'm going to call this total cost equals sum of the total product cost. Close the parentheses and hit enter. And once again, I'm going to select the card visual and I'm going to drag this onto the card visual. Let me organize these a little bit. Now, what if we wanted to calculate our profit? Let's do that. And we're going to say profit. Let's call it total profit. Total sales amount measure minus our total cost. And once again, as you can see, we are reusing these base measures that we previously created. We hit enter, and one more time, a new card. We drag this onto the card, and there's our total profit. And here's a pro tip. Each of these cards, we can put this into one single visual. So I'm going to select this new card visual, and I'm going to start dropping these values, these measures into this new card visual. In no particular order: total sales amount, total cost, total profit. And I don't see the average sales per order measure here. So what I can do is in the search pane, I can start typing it in. Average, and there I see it. I can drag this onto the visual, or I can drag it onto the data section under this visualizations. And lastly, I'm going to look for the number of orders as well. As we can see, the formatting is not too good yet. So we're going to go to the Format Your Visual tab under the Visualizations pane. And then I'm going to select Layout, Arrangement instead of horizontal, vertical. Maximum number of cards shown, I'm going to increase this number from 3 to 5. And as we can see, we have all of our cards, metrics on one single card. So I'm going to get rid of these other ones. Now, what if we want to show a sales trend over time? Let's add a bar chart. So I click anywhere in the blank section of the canvas, and I'm going to select this stacked column chart. I'm going to look for the total sales amount, and I'm going to drag it into the visual. Next, I'm going to look for the year from my date or calendar table, and I drag it into the x-axis in the visualizations pane. Now we're starting to get something here, but there's something wrong with this. Let's look at this. This is out of order, fiscal year 20, 19, then 18. And I'm going to take a look at the date table and see if there's anything I need to adjust there. So how do we fix this? Let's try something. I'm going to click on the ellipsis here in the more options. And then I see this, sort descending or sort ascending. If I select this, now we get this in the right order. And now I like to clean up the visuals as much as I can and remove anything that I don't feel is necessary. For example, I'm going to get rid of the grid lines. So I go to Format Your Visual. In the search pane, I start typing in grid. And I toggle this off. Next, I don't want to see the fiscal year title down here. And I also don't want to see the total sales amount title here. So under X-axis, I deselect title. And I do the same with the Y-axis. I also don't want to see the values here in millions. So I deselect that. And instead, I want to go to the data labels and toggle this on. Now, what if we would want to change the formatting of the way these values are displayed? We can do that here in the data labels by selecting the value. And here where it says Display Units Auto, we select this drop down, and there's different ways we can display this. I'm going to select thousands, see how it looks. We can even change the number of decimal places if we want to. Millions, billions. I'm going to select none. And I'm going to select the value of decimal places to 0. Now, this may be what you want. It may not be, but this is for demonstration purposes. Notice how we don't have comma separators here. What can we do there? Let's go back to our total sales amount DAX measure. We select it, and here under the formatting, we can see there's a field for currency. I'm going to select the currency, and for the decimal place, I'm going to set it to 0. And this is the way I'll keep the formatting. Now, what if we wanted to see the total sales also by month? Let me show you a couple ways to do that. I'm going to take this, resize it, and then I'm simply going to select this visual, Control-C on my keyboard, and then Control-V to duplicate it. Now in this new visual, I'm going to look for the month from the date table. I'm going to remove the fiscal year from the x-axis, and I'm going to select the month. Now, just looking at this, for me, it feels too convoluted. It feels too messy. So I'm going to stretch that out and see it this way. That might be fine, but I want to show you a different way of displaying the data by month. Let's go back to the visual here on the top that has the sales by year, and I'm going to select the month and drag it in the x-axis as well. And then right here where it says drill up in the visual, I'm going to select it. And I'm going to expand this a little bit. And then I'm going to select this icon to drill down in the next level of the hierarchy. Now this still looks terrible. So what can we do to fix this? I'm going to go to the table view. I'm going to select the month, and I'm going to look through these date formats to see if there's something here that I'd like to use. And I don't see one that fits exactly what I want, so I'm going to approach this a different way. Here in the format bar, I simply typed in a lowercase m 4 times. And now I get the month name. Now, what if this is too long and I want the abbreviations for the month? I simply remove one of those M's, and now I have a 3-digit abbreviation for each month. For me, that feels cleaner and more simple. I'm going to navigate back to the report view. And now as we can see, the month name abbreviations appear here. But there's still a major problem. These months are appearing in a different order. Look at this: October, December, March, January. So how do we fix this? Let's navigate back to the table view. And for this month column, we need to find a way to properly sort this. So I'm going to navigate to Power Query, Transform Data, and Transform Data. Then I go to the date table, and let me show you one way to do this. Add column, conditional column, and then we can say month sort order. If the month is equal to January the 1st, 2017, then we're going to say that is equal to July. We click OK. And if we do this, notice the pattern. We could go down the line and say, if this is July, then write July. If this is August, but that's inefficient. Let's do this a better way. I'm going to remove this conditional column. And from this month, I'm going to say transform. And from here, I'm going to select date under the add column tab. And I'm going to say month. Now this gives me the month number. I'm going to rename this month sort order. I'm going to go back to the Home tab and close and apply. I'm going to click on this month sort order. And I want to check here under the column tools to make sure this is formatted as a number, which it is, whole number. Perfect. Now we go back to the month abbreviation column. We select sort by column, and we're going to select month sort order, and watch what happens. We navigate back to the report view. We remove the month, bring it back in, and say we want to sort this by fiscal year month. And as you can see, now this is in the correct order. I'm going to remove this visual at the bottom. And I'm going to change the formatting of the numbers here. Data labels. And here, since we're going to be switching back and forth from the month view to the year view, I am going to say display units auto. And that's a little bit cleaner view. I'm also going to reformat the title. I'm going to say sales by fiscal year and month. Reduce the size. Put it there. And now we can toggle back and forth between these. I'm also going to do one more thing and change the column color. Now I'm going to add a title to this report. Text box. I'm going to say my company, my first sales report, fiscal years. Let's say this is 2018 through 2020. And I'm going to change the font size to, let's say, 12. Now let's say we want to see total sales by sales territory. Let's add another visual for that. This time I'm going to select a stacked bar chart. And I'm going to look for my sales, total sales amount on the y-axis. And for the territory, let's select region and put that in the y-axis and see how that looks. I'm going to keep this one. Now I want to match the formatting of this visual at the top with this one at the bottom. So a good starting point is by selecting this top visual and then select Format Painter and then selecting anywhere in this bottom visual. And as we can see, we just saved some time in the formatting. And I'm going to change the font size in this card visual. I'm going to type in size. And I'm simply going to scroll down here and I see this one. Font 45, I'm going to put it to 20 and see what that looks like. I like this better. Select whatever works best for you and your audience. Now let's take a look at sales by product category. Once again, I'm going to copy one of these visuals, Control C, then Control V. And I'm going to remove the region and instead select the product category and put that in the y-axis. And let's change our titles. This one, total sales by region, that's fine. Now, what if we wanted to see the top 10 products by sales? Let's add a table visual. I click anywhere in the canvas that is blank, and then I look for my table visual. There it is. Now I'm going to look for the product name. Here's the product. And then I'm going to put my total sales. And then here in the filter pane where it says product, I expand this, and where it says filter type, I'm going to select top in. And I'm going to say 10. I want to see the top in by which value? By the total sales amount. And I drop this into that value. I select apply filter and I close this filter pane. And now we see our top 10 products by total sales amount. Let me resize this so we can see all of these. Now, these numbers are a little bit hard to follow. So what if we wanted to add something visual to help us understand these numbers a little bit better? This is what we can do. We go to the format your visual in the visualizations pane, and where it says cell elements, we select that. And then I'm going to select total sales amount in the series, and data bars, I'm going to toggle it on. And I'm going to format this a little bit. I'm going to select this color and let's see what it looks like. I feel like that's a little bit easier on the eyes. Again, select whatever works best for you. I'm going to go back with the first one I had selected. And I'm going to reduce the font size just a little bit. I'm going to select global font size. I'm going to reduce it down to 9. Now let's add a couple more things here. Let's add some slicers so we and our users can filter this report. Again, clicking anywhere in the blank piece of the canvas, I'm going to select slicer. I'm going to reposition this up here. And I'm going to select year in the data pane, fiscal year. I can either drop that onto the visual or I can drop it into the field section of the visualizations pane. Now I want to save some real estate, some space here. So even though I can have this something like this and then simply reduce the font size, I'm going to do something different. In the Format Your Visual tab, I'm going to select Slicer Settings, and then under Style, I select Drop Down. Now, I save quite a bit of space there. I can resize this, and I'm going to push these down a little bit. And I'm also going to change the font size. I'm going to put this to 9 and the values as well. Save a little bit of space. Let me back up here and see how this looks. Select the slicer, Control C on my keyboard, and then Control V. And this one I'm going to change it to the territory. Or rather, the country. And I'm going to Control C, Control V again. And say the group. And let's see what else we can add here. Let's add one more for the product category. Control C, Control V. And now we can start using our filters. Let's test this. And here, since I only filtered to 1 year, I want to expand this and see all of the months for fiscal year 2018. I'm seeing some grid lines here. So I'm going to go back to the visualizations. And I'm going to type in grid. Here. Let's remove that and double check here. Make sure there's no grid lines there that I'm seeing. No grid lines. Okay. And now let's take a look at one of the countries here. And we can select multiple values in these filters or these slicers. by pressing Control on our keyboard. And as you can see, we select multiple values. And that's how to create our first report in Power BI. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.